Candace, it's nice to see you back. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yeah,
Bit by bit. Yep.
good.
Good.
Rick, do you want me to unco-host you, or are you okay being a
I
co-host?
don't care. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
Doesn't cost anything.
you can stay co-host. Matt has turned his video off. Oh, I guess he started recording.
Yeah.
Yep, he is recording. So watch what you
We're
say.
now recording. And Molly should be coming back around now, whenever. So we shall see. So there's your next photographic challenge, Max. Get everybody out shooting rattlesnakes.
You got to put on your iron boots first.
Iron boots, no sandals.
Well, we did a bug shoot last spring. I was kind of thinking about doing that again.
Oh, that'd be
I had a whole lot of fun.
That would be fun.
Bugs
to do
are
that.
cool.
Long lens with extension tubes is how I would do that one. Long lens with extension tubes.
Yeah.
I saw your stuff, Max, from Bush Park. There's Molly. Hi. Connecting to audio. So, hi, Molly. Molly Newgard has just joined us, folks. This is welcome to the Salem Digital Photography Group's monthly meeting.
Thank you.
And Molly, for those of you who don't know, is the director of Blue Sky Gallery. And the gallery is in Portland. I have not yet been there, but it is a gallery dedicated to photography, which is not very usual these days, I don't think. So,
Very true.
yeah, so Molly is going to talk to us about the gallery, what it does, and how they do it, I guess, pretty much. Before we go on, Rick, is there anything else we need to do? And I'm going to make Molly a co-host. And let's just see if there's anything we need to do before we get you going, Molly.
Okay, sounds good.
I don't think we have anything coming up other than the normal. There's critique next week, and we've got an organizers meeting at some point.
And Max, there are no more.
Unless Max has got something, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't
Are there
think
any
he's
new
got
shoots
anything.
coming up?
Well, I've got things to do, but I've kind of damped down a little because of the COVID flare up. But we're going to be doing some more shoots here really soon. I want to get out to Independence, and I'm half serious about the bug shoot. We'll have fun things to do.
Good. We were just talking about people seeing rattlesnakes. So do you know Basket Slough? Molly, do you know this
No.
area?
No,
It's
I
a
don't.
reserve. It's it's a national reserve, isn't it?
Yeah, National Wildlife Reserve.
Yeah, but people have just noticed that there are now rattlesnakes there. So
Oh,
hey,
wow. Oh,
what
wow.
fun.
Global warming.
Careful. Yes.
Yeah, COVID's been great. I'm just staying home. It's so much safer here.
Well, there is one thing we've been kicking around the idea of going back to a hybrid live meeting and live streamed thing at the same time. We're going to run a little test to see how that would work out. And I guess most of you probably saw that I asked the question in the discussion group, and I think there were enough people that were positive about it to justify at least giving it a shot. CDC says it's safe. I guess we'll find out. We'll be their guinea pigs.
All right, Molly, we are recording this, if that's okay with you, and we have a YouTube station that it will go up on for members who aren't here tonight who might want to hear it, or for some of us who want to hear it again. So
Great.
as long as, let you know that as long as that's okay with you.
Okay.
What Molly and I talked about before, again, is if you have questions, write them in the chat. Molly will be taking breaks along the way, and Sean can read the questions, or someone else can, or I can, whomever. And then we'll just have a discussion as we go along. All right.
Sounds
Anything
great.
else? I'm
Can
going
I
to
go
turn it
ahead?
over to Molly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Madeline. And I want to thank you for inviting me. I'll share my screen in just a moment. I was delighted when Madeline had attended one of our online workshops, and I'm not quite sure how she found out about it. I haven't asked her that, but shortly after that, she reached out and said, well, wow, I don't think our club knows about Blue Sky, and we'd love to learn more. So I'm I'm delighted to be here with you all this evening and hope that I can share some of our history and some of our mission and the way in which we operate and the way in which we select work. And I invite all of you to come to the gallery. So let me share my screen now. And let me know if you can see things okay. Does that look good?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So just a little bit about myself. I told Madeline I'd introduce myself and not take up too much time with that, but I am the executive director at Blue Sky, and have I started in October of 2019. So can you imagine, 5 months later, the pandemic hit, and my world has mostly been trying to figure out Blue Sky in the midst of a pandemic, and now as we make our way out slowly but surely. I have a background in art history and history of photography, taught at Portland State, worked in the education department at the Portland Art Museum, and then I transferred over to working in fundraising about 5 years ago. And so now I'm very lucky to marry my interests in art and fundraising as I manage and run Blue Sky Gallery. So here is an image, as I share on the screen on the left, of Blue Sky. Is there anyone who has been to Blue Sky? You can raise your hand. I can't see all hands, but so this is where we are. We're in the North Park blocks in the Pearl District in Portland, and we're at 8th between Cooch and Davis Street. And here's our mission I've listed for you. So, and I'll talk about our mission as I move through the slides and show you the ways in which we work with our two different constituents, meaning our artists and our audiences. So we want to educate the public about photography through exhibitions. We have a great publications program. And then through dialogue, as Madeline has participated in our programs, dialogue is really important, and we've been able to do that a lot more during the pandemic. And then importantly, to further the careers and artistic development of the artists that we show. And I'll explain more about how we do this as I move along. Let's see. So we are a nonprofit, and that's something that's important to note, because maybe our name, it sounds like we're a commercial gallery, but we're not. We are a 501c3 organization, and we were established back in 1975 as a little artist collective. There were 5 friends who were all photographers who got together and said, let's just show our work. Let's figure out a way to do that. And let's eventually show the work of people that we know and other people that we respect and want to create a platform for photography solely. And now 45 years later, we just had our 45th anniversary in October of last year. So we really have an international reputation now. The building that I showed you in the previous screen is our gallery space. So it's 3,700 square feet of gallery space. And the building itself is a historic building. We took over that space and purchased that space in 2008 through a capital campaign and other efforts. And the DeSoto building, located in the North Park blocks, is dedicated to the arts. We have the Jewish Museum on the corner of us. So they're on the corner of 8th and Davis. And then around the corner on Davis, there are 2 commercial galleries that exist, Ogden Gallery and Frolic. So it's a great opportunity, or at least it was, up until the pandemic, for people to come down and really engage in art, not only in that area, but all around the Pearl District. We're just a couple blocks north of the museum. And so we're trying to figure out a way to get back to that. That's been a big discussion because things have changed tremendously in Portland and the park blocks during the pandemic. Here is a list of our activities, and I'll share more about this as we move through the presentation. But we have monthly exhibitions. So you'll see images of our spaces that we have, but we have up to 24 exhibitions a year. This is a very ambitious program. And sometimes overwhelming. We have a very small staff of 3 people, myself included. And we have 2 spaces for solo exhibitions. So those change out every month. I will say that during the pandemic, we kind of we put the brakes on things and slowed things down a little bit and extended our exhibitions to 2-month exhibitions. But now we're getting back on schedule because we have a lot of artists that we have approved to show, and we want to give them the opportunity for their solo shows. And more on that later. We have a research library with an exhibition space or an exhibition wall that we have devoted more recently to community partnerships. And that's been a great way to engage with schools or community organizations in the medium of photography. We have our Pacific Northwest photography viewing drawers, and you all might be very interested in this. So I'll share with you how that program works. And sorry. Let me just turn that on.
Mute everyone.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, but I think we'll just mute everybody else.
Great.
All right, so I'm going to mute all, and then Molly, unmute yourself.
Okay.
There
Can you
go.
hear me now? Is that
Yep.
okay? Okay, great. So I will talk more about the Pacific Northwest viewing drawers, because this is a program we have that's dedicated specifically and strictly to Northwest artists, and it's an annual juried show, and it's one of my favorite programs. So I'll show you some images from that. We also have monthly programming. We have artist talks, panel discussions, participatory workshops, and this has become more enhanced over the past year as we've moved online. And as was discussed as I came on board, the move to a hybrid model, we're thinking about that too, and how can we do that? How can we continue to reach out to those who want to stay online, but also do more in our gallery spaces? So it's kind of a tricky point in time right now. We also have a very robust website with an archive with all of our exhibitions and programs. And that's a great way for people to connect with what we've done in the past. Going all the way back, many years with our archive. We are a member-based organization, so we have about 500 members that are various levels. However, I will state that you do not need to enjoy blue sky or to be a member to enjoy blue sky. So it's a way to support our organization. Members help to keep our doors open, support our exhibitions and programs, and really kind of push us to maintain our excellence and innovation. We also have a select number of individual donors and contributors. We have a newly established artist fund that was really the impetus through an anonymous donation in the end of 2019, specifically to support emerging artists of color. So I will say that when we have exhibitions on the walls at Blue Sky, we offer an honorarium to every exhibiting artist, and they receive $1,000 to do with that money what they want, whether that's to help print their work, to frame it, to ship it to Blue Sky. And so this extra fund helps to provide more funds, especially for emerging artists of color. Again, as I mentioned, even as a member-based organization, all of our programming are entry to Blue Sky. So if you come up next week or next month, you can walk in. Everything is open to the public online and in our space. I spend a lot of time helping to shore up our funding so we can keep things free for everyone. So we receive a lot of, I would say, our primary support from our local and national foundations, as well as public funds on a state and a local level, as well as federal funds. And this has been really crucial this past year. As some of you might be aware, for many arts organizations to survive has been a lot of the emergency funding that we have gotten. So here is one of our exhibition spaces. So this is the back room of the gallery, and this is one of our spaces for a solo show. And this is our front gallery, and these were from exhibitions a few years ago. The way that the work for these main exhibitions are chosen is through an exhibition committee. And I welcome any questions with regard to this, but I'll explain a little bit how it works. Anyone can submit their work to Blue Sky. Anyone can, it's free. And that's one of the things that we are proud of, is that you can go onto our website, go to the drop-down bar that says submissions. As long as you fulfill the criteria that is listed there and you submit the work in the correct way, your work can go before the exhibition committee, that is a volunteer committee that meets on a weekly basis. So this is a very dedicated committee. And I will say that this is the way that Blue Sky has worked since its inception. So it was very much a scrappy artist collective when it started, and really was run by volunteers for so many years. It wasn't until, a certain point in time they could afford to hire, say, even a part-time executive director to help run things. But the volunteers helped to install the shows, to create all the publicity, as sort of handmade as it was. So that has been something we've retained at Blue Sky, is this kind of theoretically democratic process that anyone can be on the exhibition committee. There's no criteria other than that you show up and that you can offer some insight. And I would say that people who are on the committee bring their personal preferences for sure. But because we have a mission that's dedicated to both emerging and established artists and to artists who are innovative with the medium of photography, and that doesn't mean that it's all contemporary work. In fact, last month we had an exhibition of an archive of work that was from the early 20th century, from the first couple decades of the 20th century. So we're interested in process, we're interested in concept, we're interested in the narrative function. And I think that's why Blue Sky works, is because it's across the board. But what happens in the exhibition committee is a great discussion of the work. Let me show you some more examples of the kinds of work. This happens just to be from the past year. Just like a little snapshot, one image from work from 2018 through 2020. Natan Devere's work that's shown right here. He was one of the last before we shut down in middle of March. So this was February of 2020. What's neat about the way we showed this work is that they were these horizontal photographs, but on one wall of our gallery, we actually were able to print on vinyl one of these. This is called his Subway series. One of these images that was on vinyl and covered the entire wall of the gallery, and that accompanied the smaller images. So we can be innovative and creative with the way we present too. Sometimes the artists like to dictate or talk about sequencing in the gallery, or sometimes we as staff and exhibition committee can be a little bit more creative or have more, I would say, leeway with the way in which the work is shown. So these are examples, and you can see, so we have Rachel Boileau, who's maybe more of an emerging artist who comes out of Tennessee. But Robert Frank, I think we all know the work of Robert Frank, and we had a retrospective of his work back in January, February. And Zun Lee, who's become much more of a well-known name, who this project in particular was featuring the role of Black fathers in society and in family. So a whole series on that. We've done a workshop on his work as well too. I'll just stop a minute and see if there's any questions regarding the way, the solo shows, and then I'll move on to talk about the drawers that we have.
There are no questions in the chat at the moment. I don't know if anyone wants to raise a hand or if anyone has questions at the moment.
Nope.
Anybody? Nope, not at this time. Looks like.
Okay, great. We'll move on. So as I mentioned earlier, one of our other programs that I feel is very, is at the heart of our original mission, was to look at the work of Northwest artists. It's an annual and year-long program. These are physical drawers that are in our spaces, and this is how they look when they're open. This is a show that is a juried exhibition. We put a call out every October or maybe beginning of November to Northwest artists. And we invite them to submit their work. It has to be work that's been done in the past, I think the past 5 years. So we're looking at fairly recent work. We hire 2 outside jurors to look at all of the work. And we have enough room. Generally, we have maybe 200 submissions from individual artists. And on average, between 50 and 60 are chosen each year. The work is in the drawers. The artist provides the prints, and you can see sort of the space that is accommodated. They can be as large as this or even smaller if they choose. The 10 prints that are chosen from the submission, because they submit 10 works, and so the jurors decide on which artist, and if the artist is chosen, then those 10 prints will go in the drawers. They remain here all year, and visitors can come in, open the drawers. Right now we have gloves, of course, provided. People can pick them up. Sometimes they're wrapped in wrapping to protect them in clear wrap. But it's a great way to make these works of art even more accessible. I mean, photography as a medium is accessible in terms of its representation, maybe more so than other mediums, but accessible by saying that we're taking these off the wall and you can actually handle them. And in fact, you can actually purchase them. And so it's a way to support the artist to get their work out there. And also the work is sold, as is all the work that's on the walls, even though that's not our primary goal as a nonprofit. But in order to support artists' careers, as long as the work is at Blue Sky, we will facilitate a sale if the artist wants to sell their work and someone wants to buy it. We do take 50% commission, and the rest goes back to the artist. So I would have to say this is one of my favorite programs, because my office is just in the back, not far from where the drawers sit, and just to hear the drawers open and close I had people come in today. I was sitting at the front desk, and they said someone who was in the drawers was bringing his friend or his partner in to look at them. And I don't know, there's just something that's really magical about the accessibility of the work and the variety. When we have 2 jurors who right now we have amazing work in the drawers. One thing the pandemic has done, among many other things, is to make this work accessible to people who couldn't come in the gallery. We were closed from March to August. So we had to find a way to still support the artists and pique the interest of our visitors. So we put all the work online, every single image with the artist's bio or artist statement, as well as the pricing. And that remains on our website now, last year and this year, every single image, and it will remain there indefinitely. So it's a great way to make the work further accessible to people across the country, across the world, who want to see the work. And in terms of criteria, again, our jurors, they might come from a particular perspective, but we really encourage them to look at the range that can be presented and what might be interesting for our viewers to see, especially to really engage with the creativity of what's happening in the Pacific Northwest. So if you're so inclined, keep your eye on our call when fall rolls around and see if you might be interested in applying. I mentioned a couple of other, I mentioned our library and our community wall. So this is an image of our library. We have 1,000 volumes. It's a small space, but there is room enough there are a couple chairs, there's a table. It is a non-circulating library, so we don't lend the work out, but people come in and spend hours. There's artist monographs and as well as group exhibition shows, and such. So it's a great resource for students and for photo enthusiasts alike. Across from this bookshelf, we have a wall, and this is our library community exhibition wall. And in more recent years, my goal has been to really engage with community partners to feature work. This happens to be an image of an exhibition called Our Diversity is Our Strength. And we had 2 outside curators who were already doing this project. And they were looking for partners to work with to host the exhibition, to help promote the exhibition. Their goal as curators was to reach out to people in the community in the Portland metro area, and I think even across Oregon, anyone who wanted to submit and tell their stories about the immigrant experience. And you can't really tell in these images, but the images are here, and there is a bit of text below that tells the story that the photographer is capturing of the image they're taking. So it was really popular, and we actually extended it for a couple months so that people could come in and share in the diverse stories and be witness to that. Speaking of community, I did want to go back to the drawers because this is something that also might be of interest to your club. In these drawers here, these are the drawers of the individual artists. To the far left, we have about 10 drawers that are dedicated to community organizations. And we started this a few years ago. It's not part of the jurying process, but we invite community photo-based organizations to participate. And your club would be an example of that. So for example, we have Portland Grid Project, we have Portland Photographers Forum. These are photo clubs that we ask if they would like to have a drawer for the year, and they manage it. They decide which members want to be in there, and maybe once a month they switch out their members, and the work can sell as well. So it's a great way. One stipulation is that you can't promote it that you're in an exhibition, because again, these are the juried artists, but it's great visibility, and we do encourage people to see the work when they come in. So that's a really fun way to continue to build relationships with our community, and again, not just in Portland, but we'd be happy to beyond. So if this is something your photo club might be interested in next year, the drawers program works from March. It opens in April. So these are just the newest drawers, and then it'll close in March of next year. So that's the way the annual or the year works. Excuse me. Okay, so let's see what we have next. We have a publications program, and these are examples of our Blue Sky yearbooks. And Blue Sky yearbooks are really fun. It's a incentive for members, or it's a benefit to members, I would say. On this shelf here, I have 3 examples of catalogs or Blue Sky books. Here's the very first issue back in 1975 that we produced. The yearbooks contain images, a select number of images of every artist who has exhibited on the wall the past year. So it's a great archival book. It's a great addition to anyone's collection. It's great for our own archives. This happens to come from the year 2012, 2013. The formats, as you can see, have changed. These are fairly thick in a larger format. This is our most recent one, 2017 through 2019. We didn't do one last year, and I'm not sure if we'll be doing one this year because our exhibition schedule has been really condensed. But it's a beautiful book. And again, it's a benefit. Every member gets a free book, and this probably has about 200 pages or so. On the right here, we have artist catalogs. We offer every artist who exhibits in the main galleries at Blue Sky the opportunity for us to produce a catalog for them. And we call them our Blue Sky books. And these are 2 in recent years. Glenna Jennings her exhibition, was back in, I think it was December of 2019. And she actually came out during that exhibition, even though we couldn't have an artist talk, or even the gallery was closed in December because of COVID. So we sort of had to celebrate her in other ways. But this is a Blue Sky book that one of our board members on his own time puts together for us. We print up a couple copies, and then they're always available on demand printing on our website indefinitely. So it's a great kind of economical way, but also a really lovely production just of images for an artist. For emerging artists, sometimes it might be their first catalog. And for others, they choose not to do it, and that's fine, because maybe they're more well-known and they have many catalogs that have been produced. But that's our publications program that we've been doing since the beginning.
I'm going to
let me just share
you. Can I interrupt you? There's a question, one question back about that community draw.
Yes. Yeah.
If the club were interested in doing that, you're saying that we couldn't say it was part of the, I'm not sure how would you, you're saying it's not part of the exhibition because it's not juried, but I'm assuming we could still tell people that there was a community draw at the gallery.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things we just said, like, you couldn't put it on your CV that you were in a juried exhibition, but you can mention you were in a community drawer as part of the club.
Right, and the club could certainly promote on its website.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That it has a community draw, so it could be promoted in its sense, right? Because
we want people to come in and see it, and especially if it's a lesser known, maybe there's people who don't even know the club exists and they want to become a part of it, and that's a great way for publicity too. So yes, absolutely. And I'm the you can contact me directly for that. I manage all the community drawers, so if you want to get on the list, I'll write that down for contact for for later this year. So
okay, we'll get back to you on that. I'm hoping, Rick, that answered your question.
Great. I will just show some kind of milestone seminal exhibitions. This image that you see on the right is our very first Blue Sky exhibition, when Blue Sky was located at Northwest Lovejoy Street in Portland. So very small space. Again, the way that we hang work can vary. Artists might, and I'm talking about now, artists might send their work to us framed. We might actually just put them up with magnets. We always find a way to make it palatable and also aesthetically correct and pleasing. So these show, they might have even been the founders' work. Again, we have 5 founders. 2 at least who are still very active, 2 that are on the board currently of Blue Sky as founders, as well as on the exhibition committee, and 2 others who are sort of peripherally involved, and another who has passed away in terms of the founders. And then this was an early way. This was actually the opening exhibition. You can see October 5th, 1975, the poster that was created. And mentions those, including some of the founders who were exhibited for that opening exhibition. So this was the early way that Blue Sky got the word out, was creating these posters that then they would fold up and mail out as a volunteer committee assembly line, getting them out the door to their constituents, their friends of friends, getting the word out. A couple of other catalogs and posters from seminal exhibitions. Let's see, this one here, this is the 5-year anniversary catalog, Blue Sky, Anniversary of an Alternative. A lot of these are not available in print anymore, so we have some copies, but in this one, there's nice essays that have been written by some of the founders or other early volunteers who saw kind of its growth over 5 years. And so that's important for us to reflect back on after 45 years to understand and see that growth. This happens to be on the left here from our 35th anniversary. Unfortunately, because we turned 45 years old last October, we couldn't really do anything extraordinary or even special. We had a little dance party, but there were about 5 of us who were there. So it was, we tried to do it on YouTube, and the technology wasn't quite working. So it was a little sad, but we're all recovering, and we'll get back to it at some point. We've had very traditionally very strong openings. The first Thursday is the opening for most galleries in Portland. So it is a night where the spaces are open much longer. We could have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people come through in one night. That is no more, and we don't know if we'll get back to that, but maybe smaller groups. So now we just find other ways to celebrate. I will say that generally artists would come to Portland for their opening and give an artist talk in the gallery. And it might be the opening first Thursday, it might be the weekend following. What we have been doing since March of last year is have those online. And that gives a little more flexibility for the time. So we're not necessarily celebrating on first Thursday, but sometime during the month of their exhibition. This is a little bit of a visual pun here, but we have two other important exhibitions that happened more recently. So this is Blue Sky at 40. And this I wasn't at Blue Sky during this time, but this was a seminal exhibition that was done in conjunction with the Portland Art Museum that showed the work of Blue Sky artists in the galleries and the catalog that was created with Blue Sky staff, our executive director at the time, as well as Julia Dolan from the Portland Art Museum, who also participated in the writing of some of this catalog. So it was a big project and an important project to celebrate Blue Sky's presence in Portland for 40 years. And this catalog, there's a lot of text in this one and a lot of essays, but this is exciting too because it's called our Founders and Futures Blue Sky Ahead exhibition. This actually occurred last fall in 2019, October and November. In October, we had an exhibition of the founders, the 5 founders that I mentioned. And then following that in November, we had an exhibition of what was called the Futures. And the Futures exhibition was a specific call that we did to photo-based artists under 35 to submit their work. And then the founders, the remaining founders, juried those works into the exhibition. They chose 6. They couldn't, they didn't choose 5. There were 6 that they really liked. So we agreed that they could have 6, even though there were only originally 5 founders. And it was my moment of coming on board at Blue Sky. I arrived the day that the Founders show was going up on the walls. So it was a great lesson in Blue Sky history for me at the time. And then to see the next month, the future of photography, this exhibition go up, and the dialogue that occurred between the 2 exhibitions was really an important moment, I think, in the history of photography, if we want to think about, because many of the futures who were chosen, these younger artists, really revered the work that the founders had created. And some of the work was older work, some of the work was newer work for the founders. And so it was a really interesting moment to reflect on the past, not only of photography, but of Blue Sky, and also think about what photography means going forward, and the ways that younger artists are using the medium, and think about it, but also some parallels that were happening too. So it was a really interesting time. Again, right before COVID, when everything hit and everything changed. This is the way that we get word out to our interested audiences today, just examples of our exhibition postcard. This is one show that we have up right now. And I will say, if you've read Oregon Live or The Oregonian lately, we had a great article that talked about the Ansel Adams show at the Portland Art Museum in relation to this show right here of Johnny Chapman's work currently on view at Blue Sky. So check that out, because it was really encouraging for us in the way in which the writers saw the relationship between the 2, but also this kind of contemporary look at landscapes of the West, and what the contemporary perspective, especially of a Black man, is conveying and portraying in the medium of photography. If you're interested, you can go onto our website, get on our mailing list, and you will get, you can get exhibition postcards, and it's a great reminder of visiting Blue Sky. Let's see what else we have. Oh, and one little gem I'll talk about as well is a little space we have within our gallery called 9 Gallery. And here I've just entitled it 9 Gallery with Blue Sky. 9 Gallery has been associated with Blue Sky, or Oregon Center for the Photographic Arts, as we're also known, since its inception. 9 Gallery is an artist collective. They're not an official nonprofit. They're a group of originally 9 artists. I think it's 10 now, but they rent out space from us, and we have no jurisdiction over their curatorial program. But each month they have a whole schedule, and each month a different artist puts work up in 9 Gallery, and it could be anything from installation, like you see here with wire. This is the work of Christine Clark, who was in the gallery last month. This month we have, if you come up during the month of May, we have a really interesting sort of social practice approach where you're encouraged to participate in the works of art that are going on in the gallery. We might have painting, we might have video installation, but it's a great kind of counterpoint to what's happening outside 9 Gallery on the walls in Blue Sky. And we get the 9 Gallery traffic, and then 9 Gallery gets the Blue Sky traffic. So it's just a really, it's another, and this happens to be right next to the Drawers program. So it's a great little space area that I really, really enjoy of Blue Sky. So you get to enjoy that as well. It's sort of like a surprise to many people who haven't been to the gallery to see something that's non-photographic in the space. So I will just mention a few ways that you can get involved or learn more about Blue Sky. And I'm happy to talk more about these as well too. So become a Blue Sky member. And I will say that we are in our second iteration of our member show. This is something we always thought about doing and just never did. And I came on board and I said, we need to celebrate our members. They support us. I know that a lot of them are very creative and are probably photographers themselves. Let's do a member show. And so it was our first time during the pandemic to really have time to think about it. And it's virtual, so it's not in the space, but any Blue Sky member can submit work, and then the staff juries at least one work of art into the member show, and we have a virtual opening in the middle of the summer. So that's a really fun way to recognize our members and see the creativity that they don't get to talk about as much, right? Join the volunteer exhibition committee. Hold on one second. As I mentioned, the committee has no criteria except for an interest and investment in Blue Sky and photography. We have people who are photographers. We have people who are maybe photo historians. We have people who just love Blue Sky and want to see how the process works or be part of the process. The requirement is that you commit to coming. So in order to vote, to be a voting member, you have to come for a period of time. I think right now it's eight meetings within 6 months, and then you become eligible to vote. Once you are eligible to vote, you are forever a member. So, and it's a great discussion. We used to do it in the gallery space. Since March of last year, we've been doing it virtual on Zoom. And so really that's allowed more people to participate. There's a couple people from New York who come on. There's someone who's based in LA. So it's made things more accessible and inclusive to the committee. And we're always looking for ways to enhance or diversify or broaden the voices that are present. So if you're interested, let me know, and I'm happy to provide you more information or direction on how to learn more about that. Attend a virtual program. So Madeline can speak to that, but that's a great way to get a taste, whether it's an artist talk or refocusing workshop that Madeline's been attending. That's the 4th Wednesday of every month. And then other openings. Because of our archive, everything is recorded, just as you're recording your meeting tonight. And we put everything on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and see what happened April of 2020. So it's really since March that we have been recording everything and putting them on our YouTube channel through our website. And that's just, there's a lot of stuff on there and a lot of good stuff. So you can do that virtually, or you can do it through the website. If you feel like you have a great body of work, submit it for consideration for a Blue Sky solo show. Go and look at the submission requirements, and I would say that we feature mostly national and international artists, and that's why the drawers are so important to us. But we do agree that we need to show more Oregon artists. We had one show of an Oregon artist last year. Yeah, we're always looking for new and great talent that we haven't tapped into yet. In that light, keep an eye out for the call for entries for the 2022 Pacific Northwest Drawers. It opens in the fall, and then it would be an exhibition for 2022. So that's a great way to be involved. You don't have to be a member. You don't have to, there's no other requirements for that. Anyone can enter for that. And then I welcome you all, please, visit Blue Sky. We're probably one of the few galleries that are open right now, maybe more and more, but we're open for appointment, but we're also open for walk-in. And right now our hours are Wednesday through Saturday from 12 to 5 p.m. You can go on our website and easily book an appointment. But I will say even if we have capacity at 10 people in the gallery, we've never had to turn people away. I will say Saturdays are probably the busiest. Yeah, please come up and, let us know. You can if you sign up for an appointment, you can put in, how you learned about us, or you could say that, you're coming from the Salem Digital Photo Club. And, it's always interesting to know where people come from. And then I encourage you to visit our website. We have, again, the immense archive of all of our past exhibitions. Gosh, we're working on that because a lot of the shows back to 80s and 90s, we have to scan a lot of those images. But otherwise, the past couple years, the past decade, you can see every single solo exhibition. It's a great way to do some research. We're trying to build out the archive to put more information about artists. For example, if there's an article that comes up, we call it, sort of our Blue Sky artists. Once you're a Blue Sky solo show artist, you're always a Blue Sky artist. And we want to continue to find and kind of follow them in their careers, but that's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So we can't always do that. And we appreciate people, telling us about something they learned about an artist from 3 years ago, and we can make that known on our website. Again, our past programs on YouTube. We have a lot of good content that's on our website as well for educational content. And then probably the most direct way is signing up for our Instagram, our Facebook, our Twitter, as well as our mailing list. On the front page of our website, you can go down to the bottom and join the mailing list, which is, I send an email out every month, just usually the middle of the month, a recap of programs and such. And then we're sending them out throughout, reminding of programs and things happening during the course of the month.
I have a question for you, Molly.
Yes.
In some of the work you were showing, it looks like there's an emphasis on street photography. And I'm wondering if that's true or if there's other genres. One of the exhibits looked like it was abstract, one of the large exhibits that you first showed in one of the open rooms. But a lot of them look like street and, again, narrative photography.
Yes, I will say that has been the trend at Blue Sky. Documentary, street photography, narrative, storytelling. Although I would say the past couple of years, if you go to archive and look at the past couple of years, there's been more of a variety. So we're really trying to have more, and as we're bringing in sort of more diverse voices, we're finding that people are working with the medium in different ways. They're coming out of programs or a couple years out of programs, or working in residencies that they're engaging in different ways. We do have a lot of, I had someone come into the gallery today and say, well, it seems like there's a lot of political stuff going on in social justice. And I said that's definitely something that our more contemporary artists are interested in engaging in, like even Johnny Chapman. He's challenging the history of representation of the West and trying to insert the Black man's experience within that. So those kind of constructed approaches, while not typical in any way in what we have shown, is something that I think that we're encouraging the exhibition committee to consider even more so, because it's sort of a reflection of what's happening out there. So we're still trying to balance it, and but maybe balance a little bit better, rather than just the narrative street photography, documentary photography. So that's a good question, but that's not an observation that you're not alone in that observation, for sure.
Yeah, because there was the one landscape of, I think, the Tennessee photographer that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much the only, in what we saw, what you showed us, pretty much.
Yeah, landscape is not something we're seeing very, very much of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or we're showing
unless within a social context.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that shouldn't be dissuading you at all. I think, sometimes it's nice to be pleasantly surprised. There was some we were looking at work of an artist who photographs the Columbia Gorge last night, and some people really felt that it was not as good as Carlton Watkins' work and should be considered differently, whereas others saw it as a kind of contemporary, fresh perspective. So that's why the exhibition committee having it made up of really not just opinions, but really I think kind of well-versed and coming from a perspective of understanding what's important for our audiences to see is really, really important.
And who do you see as your audience?
Do you mean in terms of like demographic, or?
Yeah, who comes into the gallery? Who's looking at this? Who is?
Yeah. Okay. A great question, and we are getting better and better about capturing that demographic and actually asking who our people are that are coming in. I would say the majority are probably members. They have some kind of connection. We also have a good percentage, maybe about 25% at least, who are first timers, out of towners, visitors, although that's been less, of course, this past year. Right. With more of our efforts, for example, we had a show of the women of the African diaspora, and we have a partnership that we do with Infoco, which is an organization based in New York that supports emerging artists of color, and we do solo shows for those for some of those fellows. So that's attracted a younger and because they're more experimental, I think, in their approach. Johnny Chapman actually is one of the fellows. And our outreach efforts have tried to kind of bring in more diverse audiences. But I would say typically like demographic is probably 40 and above. And we don't have necessarily a lot of school groups. We're not really catered to younger, but we have PNCA, Pacific Northwest College of Art, right down the way. So we do have a relationship with the photo teachers there. So they would bring in classes, but they're really interested in a lot of the experimental stuff that's going on. So,
and that's of course a challenge we have as a group, is attracting younger photographers.
Yes, yeah. And I that's the challenge we have in our exhibition committee too, is getting, and I don't know, we haven't really cracked it. If you guys crack what the code is, let me know.
I think the code is the iPhone. I think.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Selfies and what you had for dinner, but I'm not sure where else you go with that.
Exactly. And I think there's sort of a mentality of getting the younger generation to appreciate, learning from those who have different and other experiences. And so that there's more of an exchange going on. So it's a little bit of a dilemma for us with audiences, and we're trying to find incentives. Like, what is it? Is it the work that we show? Is it the the environment that we provide when people walk through the door? What is it that encourages people to come? But we also have people who specifically come to see specific artists. They have heard that we're showing an artist that they have learned about or know about, and they seek it out, especially because we're photo only, and one of the few photo only places that they
Yeah.
can see work.
All right.
Other
Anybody,
questions?
anyone to pitch in or comment here?
I had
Max, you're on mute.
Mute.
Unmute. Can you unmute yourself?
there. Am I in?
Yeah.
I had no idea that was there, and I'm so glad to hear from you and know that it's available.
Oh,
know,
great.
We all shoot and we all make pictures that we like,
Mhm.
but we all, I think, struggle with the concept of what's the difference between pictures that we like and pictures that would exhibit.
Mhm.
And I don't really know how to address that.
Well, and that's actually a question that comes up, and I'm trying to get our exhibition committee to move away from us to, and I would say this also with my students when I was teaching, to say that you're going to have a visceral reaction to something that you see, like, what do you like it or not? That's going to be your first response, right? But sometimes we have to go beyond that and say, why is this work important? And it might not be something I choose to make or to do. And I think photographers have a hard time. So I'm not a photographer other than, you know, an iPhone photographer. So I come from a little bit more objective perspective, but I think photographers who have their own style, they do have a hard time, because you shoot what you want because you have a connection to that, right? So that doesn't mean that you can't be proud of what you do and think that it deserves to be on the walls, but think about it in the formal context. Then is it a good photograph itself formally, you know, in terms of those kinds of qualities, in terms of the composition and the lighting and the perspective, and is it something new? Like I'm always interested in looking at something, even if it's the same subject matter I've seen, but maybe from a different perspective. And not just a visual perspective, but maybe a mental perspective too. So, you know, there is personal preference that's certainly brought into things, but we have a responsibility at Blue Sky to think and work beyond that, to say, is this a good photograph that is doing something to teach us more or tell us something? Is the narrative clear? So one of the things that comes up often is we have artists submit an artist statement along with, you know, at least 15 to 20 works. And what is the relationship between that artist statement and the images? Is there a connection? Because sometimes there's a great disconnect, and that's really hard. Even if we look at the images first and then go to the artist statement, it's like, wow, this is a really great artist statement, but I don't think the images fulfill that statement. Like, I think there's more work that could be done. And so those are the kind of things we're thinking about too, is this complete? Because for a show at Blue Sky, it's not just giving a couple, you know, images and we're saying that's a show, but it's like, what does the entire body of work tell us? And again, not just a narrative, but what does it say in terms of photography, as well as what the artist is trying to convey? Is that conveyed to us, both photographically and in terms of content? So form and content working together. Thank you. Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to sit in on the exhibition committee to hear how that works.
Yeah. There sometimes can be some contentious debates too, which is great. You know, some people feel very strongly about some works and really trying to convince others that this is important. And sometimes that happens well, and other people are like, okay, this does make sense. I see what you're saying. I didn't see that before, but now I see how that is important, or I see how that's not important. So yeah, it's interesting. So I invite you all.
Several years ago, several members of our group came up there we took a train trip up and had a little walking tour of Portland, and Big Sky was one of our stops. Great. I don't remember the name of the artist that was exhibiting, but I remember some very stark, dramatic photos of end-of-life AIDS sufferers.
Oh.
And it was very emotional.
Very emotional, yeah.
And it's a wonderful venue. I advise anyone that has the opportunity to take advantage to stop in.
Yes. Yeah. I appreciate that. And I think one of the things that is compelling is the space itself. And if we can show the right work, which we usually choose to show really good work, it can enhance the experience too. So yes.
Yeah, I'd be interested too I'm into abstract photography as well. So it's interesting because that isn't narrative.
Yes.
It is absolutely not narrative. It's abstract. So that's such a different contrast.
It is, and it's funny because we had a discussion. There was abstract work that was shown last night at the exhibition committee, and as the conversation evolved, yeah, you could see where those discussions were going, what people's expectations were of what photography should be and what abstract photography should be. So I loved it. Yeah, it was great. But that doesn't mean that your choices will always win. So that's the challenge too. Now, is there a chance that your group could come up together at some point where you feel it's safe? Because we love to invite, groups to come up. I know it's a trek from Salem, but.
Well, like I said, that the time that we came we took a train ride up.
Oh, great.
And it was a wonderful trip. The train is an adventure itself because you see parts of Oregon you haven't seen before.
Yeah. And
then just walk around leisurely and come home when you want. So yeah, I think it'd be a great idea if we did that again.
I do. It's a great resource.
Yeah, and
and I didn't know about it. I'm fairly new here, so.
Yeah, and you can let me know, if there's a particular time, and we could give you a tour. I mean, you've had a tour already, but you can see what's on view at that point. I'd be happy to host your group.
There wouldn't be anyone else there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You'd have
your own private gallery show.
You would.
Probably have our own private train car.
You probably would too.
Right.
Yeah. We're not too far from.
I had a comment.
Yes. Go ahead, Catherine.
Yeah. Hi. The trip Rick is talking about. I went on that, and we actually took time to go through some of those drawer exhibits, and they were wonderful too.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes.
There was some Northwest art there photos there that were really enjoyed seeing. So that to me, that's actually, I enjoyed that more than actually the photos on the wall, because like Rick said, they were pretty, yeah, I'm not sure what word to use, but anyway, I just wanted to comment that I had enjoyed the drawer exhibits very much, and they're well worth spending the time to go through.
Well, that's great, Catherine. And I think it begs time, because there are many drawers to go through. So it can make for a lovely afternoon to spend a lot of time going through 59 artists if you choose.
With 10 images each. That's a lot of images.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I will say about the drawers that was really neat for us, and I was just looking back on that. So with so much happening in Portland last summer in particular, we wanted to figure out a way that Blue Sky could help to kind of be a part of the solution. And so we had a specific push with sales of the drawers work in August. And as I mentioned, the artists receive, they price their own work. So anywhere from, $100 to maybe $500 for their prints. They get their 50% commission. We take 50%. So what we did with our commission is choose two organizations in town, the Black Resilience Fund and the Sisters of the Road Cafe, which is down the street from us and committed to helping serve the homeless food and services. And so we gave a portion of our commission to those two organizations as a way to be kind of part of the community effort, as well as importantly support our artists. So that was the first time we did that. And I think we'll definitely do it again, because we had great sales for the artists, and importantly, we're able to support much needed services happening, needed in Portland. So.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
When you sell prints, are they numbered prints? Is there an unlimited? It's
just, so in the drawers, it's whatever the artist puts in there. And And so however, whatever, if they've made certain additions and then they price them on their own, if we sell out of the drawers, we let the artist know and they can replace it. So they always have 10 photos in the drawers. On the walls, the artist, for example, Johnny Chapman's work, he made additions. He made anywhere from, from 3 to 10 editions per print. So they're very expensive. And again, it's up to the artist to price those, and we just facilitate the sale.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, then I think we'll just say thank you so much for joining us tonight and letting us know about this incredible resource that's only an hour away.
Yeah, I hope you'll all come and let me know. Let me know if you walk through the door, say, is Molly here? And I'd be happy to come out and meet you in person.
And again, there's also as Molly mentioned, I've been attending some of their online discussion groups, and there are more of them that I haven't attended. But that's been great too, because I don't commute up to Portland at 5 in the afternoon on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's been great to be able to access that online and be part of that community and part of the discussions. The discussions I've been going to are photography related to poetry and how and what is Lois's last name, Molly?
Levine.
And she's from the literary end and will bring in poetry that she feels fits appropriately with whatever the photography is that they're presenting. And it's been a very interesting discussion to put the juxtaposition of photography and poetry.
Yeah, and we learned that we can dig deeper with both the image and the text. And the unique thing about Lois's program, I will say, is apart from some of our others, is that it's really, she guides us, but it's really encouraged anyone and everyone to participate. So she's not lecturing to us. It's really encouraged for people to share their perspectives and what they see and what they hear. So. It's an intimate group, but it's kind of a critical darling of what we're doing right now at Blue Sky. So
yeah, I've enjoyed it, and I need to
great. I'm so glad.
Other things you've been doing.
So glad. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Molly.
Okay,
we'll see you
thank
soon.
you. Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, guys. Any more thoughts on this or feedback?
That was good.
Who said that? Somebody said that.
I did.
All right. Good.
I enjoyed that.
I think it'd be a good idea to look into another train trip up there. Yeah, like I said, it was a blast just riding on the train. But
yeah, I haven't done that. That would be fun. I'd like
but there's a lot of things within walking distance of the train station. It's a pretty good hike up the hill, but Blue Moon Gallery is not. Blue Moon Photography is not far from there. And of course the gallery. I don't remember what all we went. We went to stopped in some coffee shops and some
Saturday market. We were
Saturday
down there
market. Yeah,
doing
Saturday
street
market.
photography.
That was a lot of fun.
It seems like you could almost spend a day at Blue Sky Gallery. There's so much going on there between their library and the draws and whatever they're exhibiting.
Well, it's not as big as you might think.
Okay.
You could probably spend a day there, but I would get tired a lot quicker.
Unless you had a real research project going.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are, like Catherine said, in those drawers, there was a lot of historical stuff. There were some fascinating photos in there.
So I think at the organizers group, we could talk about whether we want to, it would almost be like what we've been doing online, 5 images, the featured artists. If we want to see about pulling together images and having a draw that we would rotate. So that's something we can talk about as the organizers group as well.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look into.
It sounds like we would just at this point get on a list and then we could submit different stuff each month. Everybody, if you do 10 prints, 10 prints a month. I think we could come up with 10 prints a month from our members.
Yeah, we need some details like what size print they want.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find that out.
Sure.
It might, I can ask her again, or it might be online. We can look into that, but something we might want to do. It'd be a nice venue for us, I think. It's a nice thing to do.
Well, we've got a lot of people that have sold photos, so I know that we have people that have some good photographers in our group.
Well,
Bill Leach, it gives him another outlet for his stuff.
he's probably the least who needs it. Let's work on the others of us who'd like to sell and have as much as he has.
Well, Matt's sold a few at the state fair, so he'd probably get in on that too.
I've sold a few at galleries here in town, so some of us are in there too. So.
Candace has sold some at the state fair.
Yeah. So is Mary Pinnon.
Yeah.
She sold some at the state fair, and I don't know who else has been in galleries here. But yeah, that's I had somebody come into my apartment and buy some. That was neat. Bought it off my wall. It was like, all right. The home gallery here.
How did you do that, Candace? I mean, Madeline, sorry.
It was a real estate agent, and we were looking for a house, and we told them to come up to our apartment to see what it looked like, what we were comfortable with, that we were looking for a house similar to our apartment. So he came up, and there's photos everywhere, and he asked if some of them were for sale, and I said, sure. And he bought 2. So I never bought a house. We're still in the apartment. He hasn't gotten back to us about a house, but he bought 2 of my photos. Yeah.
You could
I
trade
sold
them.
one from CCTV when we did that. We had the exhibit there. I sold something there. So
Yeah, Paul Sudzik used to have those CCTVs.
Yeah.
Exhibits.
I haven't sold a lot, but it was, my first goal was to exhibit somewhere. So that was good. You guys got me into Woodburn and CCTV. And then it was to sell something, which I did to a neighbor. And then it was to sell something to someone I didn't know. And that's happened. And now, I've sold 5 or 6, and that was sort of the end of that. Nothing lately.
Something you said reminded me of something we did many years ago when you were talking about the online, the virtual things you've been going to, poetry and photography. We went over to Silverton, and they had a group of poets and a group of photographers, and they put names in a hat. The photographers drew out a poet's name, and poets drew out a photographer's name, and we would exchange. We gave the poet a photograph, and they wrote a poem to match the photograph. They gave us a poem, and we had to go take a photograph that, in our opinion, exemplified that poem. And then we, about, I don't know how long, 2 or 3 weeks later, we got back together and displayed all this stuff. And that was a lot of fun. And it really inspired some creativity for the photographers, especially, because you had to, most of us aren't used to poetry. So it took some thought and some interpretation and trying to figure out how to visually interpret these words.
That's a great idea. And I'm friendly with a woman who's a poet here and is very involved in things like that.
Me too. It was a poet friend of mine that got us into it.
Do you want to look into that?
Sure.
And do it again? Or I could talk to Marilyn, and this is Marilyn Johnston, if you know her.
Well, we don't have to just have one poet. We're going to have to.
I'm saying, I'm saying we could probably get a poets group through one of these poets.
Yeah.
As opposed to each of us looking for poets, but I think they could come up with a group.
Nyla Alicio was the one that got us into it. A couple of John and I think Matt and Catherine probably all know her. She has a show on the web.
Okay, and Marilyn has worked with. She actually did something on aphasic writing, which was writing from artwork as poetry. She did it through Bush Barn, among other things, and she just published a book last year. She had her opening. But we could do that as a monthly meeting. We could have it set up earlier so everyone exchanges stuff, and then do a monthly meeting of the results.
Sure.
And people could, people can share screens to show their photos.
Yeah.
So I can start working. I'll get in touch with Marilyn. You get in touch with your person, and we'll see if we can coordinate.
Yeah, that was because we had a ball doing that. It was it was quite a, it was more creative than I've probably ever been, to tell you the truth. Because I had to actually put some thought into something instead of saying, oh, that's pretty.
Looks like we've lost some people already. We're down to
Yeah,
9.
I've gotta go here. Good to see
All right.
you all. Nice meeting.
We bored a bunch of them, but that's all right.
I know.
Bye, John.
I haven't
Bye-bye.
written that letter yet to ask
Bye,
how
John.
you like the speakers. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Stay safe. See some of you next week at Critique.
Okay.
Ciao.
Good night.